Welcome to today's webinar, 2026 Unlocked, the Strategic Framework for Profitable, Efficient, and Circular Operations. My name is Mallory Shapansky, and I'm the event and content producer for the Recycling Today Media Group, and I'll be moderating today's event. I'd like to introduce today's presenters, Jeff Aardsma. He is the Vice President of Market Development at AMCS Group, and John Bradslaw. He is the Senior Director of Program Management at Recology. Before I get started, I'd like to thank AMCS for sponsoring and hosting this webinar. I'd also like to remind everyone that if you have a question for today's presenters, to please submit them in the chat or Q&A option at the bottom of your screen in Zoom, and we will save all the questions until the end of the webinar. I'll now turn it over to Jeff to kick things off.
Thank you, Mallory. Really excited for today's session, and a big thanks to Recycling Today and to Recology and John Bradslaw for joining. We're going to run through an agenda that really explores how we're going into 2026 and beyond as an industry, meeting the challenges that are in front of us and really leveraging the tools available to keep advancing the critical services that we provide to our communities, our employees, and really fulfilling a sustainable mission that I believe we all share. You can go ahead and advance the slide. As Mallory mentioned, I'm Jeff Aardsma. I lead market development here at AMCS. I've been in the industry coming up on about 20 years now, both working inside the industry as well as on the technology side in my current role here at AMCS. Really excited to have with us today John Bradslaw with Recology, a fantastic example of how our industry is meeting today's challenges. John, would love to have you introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Mallory and Recycling Today. My name is John Bradslaw. I am the Senior Director of Program Management for Recology. Been with Recology a long time, over 36 years, and had the fortunate opportunity to be involved in a lot of different areas of the business. I was our Director of Finance, left to join operations, really the heart of the business. And I ran our San Francisco operations for a few years and then came back to our corporate team and have focused on business process improvement. I did some early work on the platform implementation when we first got started, and then did some other process work, and now have come back and joined the team to really push forward and transform the business. So we've got our strategic plan is focused on digital transformation, and implementation of platform and working with AMCS is really an important part of that program. So we're great. We're happy to have AMCS as a partner in that work. It's an exciting time for Recology. I've seen a lot of changes over the years, and I think we're on the kind of precipice of a big advancement, and it's an exciting time for the industry.
Wonderful. And we're really appreciative you're here. Looking forward to our discussion. Lots to unpack in this year and beyond. So with that in mind, I really want to kick off our conversation as John mentioned, not only for Recology or AMCS, but I think for the industry, we're really at the center of a transformative moment for our industry, and probably one that has been building for many years, and we're ready to really take advantage of. If anyone in the audience follows the sector, as I'm sure you do, through outlets like Recycling Today, who again we thank for hosting our event today, you already know that 2026 isn't about incremental improvement. It's about redefining how profitable, resilient, and circular operations need to run. Across the waste and recycling and resource management ecosystem, leaders are facing a new operational mandate: increase speed, strengthen margins, improve material quality, and deliver a greater customer value, all while navigating new customer demands, tighter service expectations, and more competitive landscape. Through that lens, We're going to be bringing today's session to the conversation we'll have shortly with John. So let's look at the state of our industry, right? Higher complexity and higher expectations. Margin pressure is intensifying. Contamination and material volatility are certainly not letting up. Labor constraints continue to be a challenge, and operational complexity continues to rise as organizations expand into new business lines, new service models, and in many cases, new geographies. But perhaps the most significant shift is this. Performance is no longer measured only by what you collect or how efficiently you run. It's measured by the intelligence of your operations. When we say that, we're talking about connected data, automated workflows, real-time decision-making, circular practices that are embedded directly into your day-to-day operations. These are no longer competitive advantages. They're rapidly becoming baseline expectations. At AMCS, we're tracking 4 shifts that are defining the leaders of 2026. First, performance has become data-driven at every level. Operators are moving from lagging indicators to real-time visibility. Organizations are tightening order to cash, verifying service accuracy automatically, optimizing routes, and eliminating margin leakage. Not by adding hours or headcount, but by connecting their systems. Unified data is enabling today's leaders to understand where value is created and lost, accelerate decision cycles, strengthen financial control, and scale without adding unneeded complexity. Circularity is becoming a direct economic lever. Cleaner materials, lower contamination, and higher yield aren't just sustainability outcomes, they're margin outcomes. Circularity is increasingly linked to contract performance, resale quality and consistency, reduced exposure to commodity volatility, and stronger customer trust and retention. This is the shift from sustainability as an overhead to sustainability as a performance strategy. We're also seeing that agility is now important than scale. Everybody knows we're in an era of consolidation and rapid operational expansion. But growth only delivers value if the organization can adapt quickly. So what's standing in our way? Siloed operations, legacy systems, fragmented customer and operations data. The companies that win are the ones that put a single unified backbone behind their customer management, their operations execution, their material management, and finance compliance. These are the ones that can pivot as fast as the market does. And finally, we're looking at capital efficiency as redefining growth models. Trucks, facilities, fleets, heavy equipment all represent massive capital investment. The old model of grow by buying more is shifting to grow by getting more out of what you already have. With automation, IoT-driven maintenance, and integrated asset workflows, leading operators are seeing fewer breakdowns, higher uptime, lower maintenance costs, longer asset life, and more resilient financial models. In other words, capital efficiency has become a core measure of operational excellence. So what does all this mean for us in the industry? One of the most important mindset shifts underway is the move away from sustainability as a reporting exercise. We're seeing growing demands for visibility into carbon impact and how sustainability decisions drive operational performance. This is carbon-aware operations, not as a compliance requirement, but as a real contributor to operational efficiency, customer differentiation, material value, and margin strength. The organizations that treat carbon intelligence as a competitive differentiator are the ones establishing a clear market advantage. So that brings us to why we're here today. Recology is a great example of an operator that's applying these principles, embracing connected systems, integrated processes, and a circularity-first thinking to elevate both performance and community impact. Today, John and I are going to dig into automation as a growth engine, how Recology breaks down silos across business units, how unified data strengthens customer value and operational resilience, and how carbon-aware operations inform decisions and priorities. The session is going to really dig into how that is put into real-world applications, So John, let's go ahead and jump in. As Recology plans for 2026, what has fundamentally changed about how you define operational excellence compared to just a few years ago?
Well, thank you, Jeff. And first, I want to say, as you went through your intro, I could hear those words and some of the good and bad we've certainly encountered in our business. With respect to operational excellence, we've really started to move into a different realm with the implementation of platform and other technology tools. As you described, we're really on kind of at a turning point, and we are recognizing that and starting to see the importance, really have seen the importance of getting that data, of really driving performance through information, through good decision making. Um, Recology, we operate on the West Coast, and our business is largely regulated. And so we grew historically in a way that rewarded customized, high touch service. We're an employee owned company. And as that, our local teams were always focused on good customer, community relations and creating a good working environment for our teams, our workers. As the business has evolved and the regulatory environment has changed, in addition to the other things you've mentioned, that the need for greater efficiency, greater focus, better capital allocation, better decision making has become very clear. So as we've moved down this road towards a digital transformation and the implementation of platform has really been the main engine there, that we're able to maintain that high quality service while really tuning things up, really focusing the effort, making sure that we're making good decisions. We've got information that we're able to provide to our local teams to really empower them to make good decisions about how to oversee their operations and how to continue to improve our customer experience. I recognize that California is a bit of an outlier in terms of the business structure for the industry. And for those in more competitive environments and in different business arrangements, the same principles apply. Good quality service delivered in a cost-effective way, focus on the customer, visibility into what's being provided, where the opportunities lie, and how we can continue to improve. As I mentioned, I've been involved in process improvement and the transformation that we're seeing with new tools and new information is, fits perfectly into to that realm.
It's so interesting the way that you tie the way that Recology has been set up in the past, and whether you're in a regulated environment or not, the need to provide that local service and focus on the customer, that's universal. And I think the challenge comes, and as Recology has grown, as any other companies grow, and whether it's through acquisition or starting new operations organically, making sure from that corporate lens that your local teams have what they need to deliver really requires that digital backbone so that you have visibility into the entire organization and can make those strategic investments so that you're anticipating needs, not reacting to them. Typically, when you're reacting, you've already impacted that customer experience.
Absolutely. And I think that having that kind of foundational, doing that foundational work is key. And we started out, as I mentioned, we've adopted a strategic plan that was really focused on digital transformation, on transforming our business, really going to the next level in terms of information available, how we make decisions, how we manage the business on a day-to-day basis. That foundation was key. So making sure that you've got the right tools, the right structures in place, the ability to collect all the data. And again, platform is really at the center of that, is really the system that we look to provide all of the key operating data that is at the core of this transformation.
That's great. Thank you, John. And it's a perfect segue to looking at building that aggregated data structure. How have you looked at building the roadmap to data aggregation and delivering meaningful data to your executives, to your local leaders, to the folks providing service, boots on the ground? How do you build that connectivity from a data sense?
And really this was a nod to our tech team. They went through and we did initially an evaluation and identified the foundational elements that we needed to build. The team also went out and started to build a data system, a data lake, and associated dashboards and reporting to aggregate that data and be able to deliver it where it's needed. As you mentioned, you've got senior executives, you've got your management team, you've got local teams, and really there's a lot of different needs. Depends on, do you need granular data on a day-to-day basis? Do you need high level, oversight? And building that foundation allows you to deliver information at different levels for different audiences. I think that's one of the key. What we went through and did was looked at how do we pull everything together? How do we marry our platform data with our timekeeping system, our ERP, our other ancillary systems, so that we can really gather insights and deliver those back to the local teams so that they can do what they need to do, manage the business on a day-to-day basis, meet the customers where they need, and identify business opportunities.
That's great. And I'm sure some in the audience are just looking to start their transformation journey, looking to start their data aggregation approach. Looking back at your experience so far, for somebody just starting the journey, where would you recommend starting? Is it a department? Is it a geography? How do you kind of do the prioritization and decide where's your best opportunity to start?
We did a little bit of both geographically and by department. And in that sense, wanted to make sure we didn't try to do everything at once and get stuck, but rather find a path. So initially we mapped out where we wanted to go and we focused on our core operations. So collection activity, tablets in the trucks, what to track, what the drivers are doing, what's happening, on the street, the core, again, the core of our business. So we really started there. And then as we moved down the path with AMCS, we wanted to take an incremental approach. We selected one of our subsidiaries that had a lot of different operations. It was large enough to understand how to start using the system and what kind of impacts that system would have. And so, again, I think it made sense for us to pick a place. So, as you said, geographically, that we wanted to focus and started to learn. And so, as we've moved along in this journey, we've continued to implement in larger operations, in varied operations, so that we get more experience as we move forward. One of the big things that we found is that the focus is not only on the technology and putting it in place, but really getting our teams, drivers, supervisors, managers, executives, making sure they understand this is a transformation not only of the technology we use, but of the business itself. And I think that's one of the important things to remember is that the technology can is magic, can provide information, do tons of things, but really the business, those are tools. And the business, you've got to remember, you've got to take those tools and apply them in a way that will serve your needs, your communities, your business requirements, etc.
That's great. And interesting to hear the journey and change is hard. People don't like to change, right? People identify their comfort at work sometimes by the repeatability of what they know they have to do, right? And a challenging place to work becomes, somewhat combative sometimes. But you can incorporate that into, some might call it an accountability structure, an incentive structure. What's been an effective way that you've been able to help, the Recology team embrace the change that you're looking to deploy?
I think that the benefit of having started to move down this path to the transformation and started to really gather and aggregate data is that gives us the opportunity to really do, kind of more objective, fact-based decision making and do that in real time. You had mentioned that one of the things that we're doing is providing information to our executive and leadership team. But we're able to do that much in a much more efficient and timely way. Many of us have been in the business for a long time, and I think a lot of operators, a lot of people will say that they have a very good feel for the business, and it's kind of the way that historically a lot of the business has been run. I think that, as you described earlier, as we evolve, as technology evolves, and the needs evolve, having data, having information allows us to really be fact-based and drive decisions in a much more effective way.
I'm interested if there's some examples of that. And one that, comes to mind, having worked in the industry, one thing that always frustrated me is, being customer facing, you feel like it was difficult to get the things that you needed, right? Whether it was trying to capture more market share, in like construction and demolition, right? And hey, just practical examples, we don't want to cut off same day service as early as we do, or quicker turnaround times to getting new containers out, right? And, addressing customer needs that way, or, providing more competitive recycling, pricing structures, right? You've got somebody coming in and trying to, compete with you on, commodity pricing, or, hey, we can recycle better than you can, or whatever it is. Are there some practical examples of how you're serving, the local business needs because you're able to see the justification for those investments, at the executive level now? Just interested in if there's any examples on those kind of impacting the boots on the ground positively because corporate can move faster.
I think where that really comes in, a lot of our business is, we've grown some through acquisition, but really a lot of bids and contract work, and we're able now to provide a much better picture of what it takes to provide service in an area, how to basically use the data and the experience from the places that we're operating in to translate and to understand what does that mean, what does that mean in another area for another business opportunity. I think our executives, are looking at how do we take the leverage that we're generating from this transformation and use it to grow and expand in different markets. So I think that's being able to provide that executive team with the information, I think is there. I think for us, quite honestly, we're still in the learning phase. I know I've worked closely with our senior operations team, and having, access and visibility into how local operations are performing helps deal with, local management, communities, also also with our, employees, drivers, unions, etc.
Yeah. I think those are certainly universal concepts, and anyone in the audience that deals with having to respond to RFPs, whether those are municipal or for a university, a school district, a commercial property management company, those larger opportunities really need thoughtful pricing exercises, service commitments, setting expectations while finding a way to differentiate yourself in the market. I think that encompasses all the things that you kind of talked about there. Really, really good examples. Um, you mentioned you're at the learning phase. We're executing across your digital transformation, executing against your strategic plan. Let's look forward a little bit. Interested in how you look at goal setting, for 2026, maybe looking at FY 2027. How has your learnings of the past, you know, shaped and maybe changed the way that you're setting goals in the next few years?
I think for us, in the context of our strategic plan and where we're going, we're really looking to continue this transformation work. And in some ways, kind of the the biggest challenges are probably ahead because we really, as I mentioned, really need to transform our business. Now we're putting the tools in place. People are using the tools to run their business. And now we're going to move from adoption to optimization. Now we're kind of looking at how do we increase our driver efficiency? How do we make sure that we have good capital deployment? And that is from the information dashboards and reporting and access to the data that we're giving our local teams and our management team. So as we look forward into 26, the rest of 26 and through into 27, we're setting our sights higher in terms of operation and by translation, financial performance through our ability to better manage the day-to-day activity. So
Hmm.
I think that it is informing the work that we're looking to do forward. At the same time, our primary focus and my involvement right now with the project is getting it in place throughout our organization and making sure that we're starting to move to that optimization, to really using the data to get the most out of what we have and to make sure that we're pointed in the right direction. So it's definitely a journey. It's something that, takes time. I can't say, oh, you know, we're fully running and humming. I think we've got made a lot of great progress, but have a lot of opportunity and a lot of work to do. So for us, what we're looking at probably a longer horizon. And as we get through 27, and we believe that we'll be, through a good portion of our technology updates, as they're currently laid out, at that point, we're looking to really drive the business forward with all the information and new tools that we have available.
And I know you've got a kind of a backbone to your digital transformation, and that's really centered at taking a lot of legacy systems and into a single operating system. You're also doing a lot of other technology investments, looking at how to better leverage AI, how to better leverage automated feedback from your vehicles. investing in your recycling and compost facilities, maybe within your landfill or your municipal operations. How has your thinking changed around all of the technology projects that you can do through, kind of the recent experience in your main digital transformation?
Well, I think, one of the things is we've realized we need to be deliberate, and it doesn't mean you are need to be stuck in your tracks, but you need to be deliberate. The next big thing is coming, but I think what's important is to understand as a business where you're going, what kind of tools you need, what kind of information you need, and therefore what are the appropriate tools that help you. Well, like I said, we're in San Francisco, which is kind of right now the heart of AI and development. So there's lots of shiny things out there. I think the most important thing is pick your path, make sure you understand those core things that you're trying to accomplish, and then you move forward there. But we're seeing there's, new opportunities and functionality in terms of safety, both on the vehicle and with our drivers. There's certainly opportunity with our customers. Customers are yearning for a good experience. People live on their phones, and they want to make sure that the service we provide is connected that same way. So, kind of notifications of service and good communications, all those kinds of things are important as we move forward.
With a lot of what we hear from the industry is, given kind of where we've come from, broadly as an industry, bringing in those new technology components that seem to be, readily available in other industries is kind of difficult for us, right? We do have the bit of that, back office transformation to go through. A lot of the legacy systems that exist on the market, don't have robust APIs, don't have the, security structures that you need to, connect your customers into. And so, as you said, being deliberate, being intentional, building around what you have as a core, is a really prudent strategy. And knowing the value that you're going to get, against kind of chasing all the shiny things. I think that's a really, great, message to give to the audience.
And I think with that, Jeff, one of the things that's important is partnering with your technology support, whether it's internal or external. Again, that's a way to kind of, temper the excitement or the tendency to look for, what's new and shiny. There's a lot of folks out that understand the business and understand technology and where those things come together. It's part of that's part of the benefit that we see from the partnership with AMCS is just as you described with yourself, there's industry folks that are in the business, understand the challenges we face, and help navigate through that.
That's great. Well, let's turn to, maybe, and I've worked around Recology with Recology for years now. I worked myself in the Bay Area from one of your competitors. Sustainability is such an interesting topic. And I look at, what you've been able to do on the West Coast, both inside your municipal programs, but also just as a company to really embrace sustainability, showcase that there's a great business model focused on, finding the higher value for materials, operating efficient collection operations, finding higher value end markets for that material. Interested as you look at sustainability for Recology, How do you see that evolving over the next 5 years with the foundation that you've built over the last, what, 100 years of operation?
Yeah. As you mentioned, being on the West Coast and for us, being in San Francisco, our origins were there over 100 years ago. And we have kind of a unique arrangement and structure there. And one of the benefits of that is it allowed us to do a lot of innovation in terms of sustainability. How do we recover material from our customers? How we separated the streams, how we make sure that we're getting the value that we can from that. Interestingly, now as technology is really evolving and advancing, I think that the ability to identify contaminants in the waste stream, the ability to really understand where different types of material are coming from, and technology that's evolving in our processing facilities, all of those things are contributing to a new opportunity in terms of sustainability. It's something that our communities, our customers are very interested in. And so we've always seen it as a differentiator and a profit driver for us. It's not always, it's not always historically been the case in competitive environments. I think now, as technology advances, there's ways to, bridge that gap and bring those sustainability practices into the realm of basically core service,
Hmm.
and it gives companies the opportunity to really use that as a selling point with their communities. Because again, I think one of the challenges was bridging that gap between, what was, kind of the desire for recycling services for, separate organics collection and the reality of the cost structure. And now I see with technology, we're going to start to see that those things converge further. So for a smaller operator, for somebody in a niche market, they're able to take advantage of that desire by the communities and customers for that enhanced service.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting how fun it is to work in a landscape that offers the diversified material management that you do, right? It's often thought of as, call it trash math. Hey, waste and recycling pricing is pretty straight stick, right? You've got your T&D costs, your container costs, right? Your margin, and it all rolls up into kind of a monthly number that just grows over time. And I'm just speaking from my customer facing experience in the industry, right? That's always tough to, be nimble, meet new demands, right? And continue to grow your business. What I always admired about what you've got set up in San Francisco and beyond is kind of the incentive structure that allows people to participate in that material management, see the benefits of their actions, but that puts a huge strain on your operations, right? Because it opens you up to, people maybe abusing it, having to be really tight on, your pro formas and how you operate, so that you get predictable financial outcomes for the business. I think as you described, the differentiator over the last several years, and certainly where we're going to be going in the next few years, is technology enabling those types of incentive structures in a way that more companies feel confident to get into those types of pricing models, because those variables that you used to have to control kind of at the back end are becoming more controllable. They're at the point of service. They're with your customer interactions. You can be a bit more nimble and flexible in the way that you price your services.
Absolutely. And I think that it is the case. And I think, as you said, historically, there's some conflict there. And I think that as technology advances, it becomes easier to converge. I know for anybody, all of you who operate material recovery facilities, MRFs, contamination is expensive. It's expensive. It degrades your material. It's hard on your equipment. It's costly to get rid of. And I think technology is advancing in ways that are going to help the industry and even the collection operations provide cleaner material and a better way to move towards those sustainability goals.
I'd be remiss if we didn't touch a little bit on how the variety of materials that are coming in, right? Packaging continues to change, right? As you operate a recycling facility, for example, or your compost facilities, right? The intake of materials is not always up to you. You operate in states where EPR legislation has been passed. States that have legislative mandates. Obviously, you have access to a lot of end markets, but what's your take on how kind of legislation regulation of the incoming materials? Does that allow you to then be more predictable and find more end markets for the material that you're marketing, that you're selling on the other side?
It's kind of been a bit of a mixed bag. I think, I think one of the benefits, especially that we've seen of EPR legislation, is it does help create some markets because it aggregates, material. And frankly, in California, the regulatory environment, it's a blessing and a curse.
Right.
It's done some, it's allowed us to do some really innovative and good things in the industry and for the industry. It's also, been certainly been a hindrance in various areas. I think kind of moving in that direction, what it does is it provides a support and a subsidy, which often ends up focused on the markets. It's one of the big challenges that we face, and everybody who handles material and tries to do a lot of recovery, a lot of separation faces is where those markets are. And with a changing economics, changing global economics, it's become a significant challenge to find those markets for those niche materials. We've always tried to, focus and find those things. But I think ultimately having the information about where material's coming from, how best to segregate it, how best to even structure your collections to manage it. Those are things that I think over time are going to allow us to tune our service. One of the things we're looking at is onboard cameras contamination review. We've been working with AMCS. They've got Vision AI, a product that we're doing some testing with, but that product and others like it allows you as a collector to see the material as it's coming in and really understand how to go back, outreach with your customers, and again, structure your routes effectively. I think having kind of having regulation legislation it is helpful because I think it brings financial support back into the system, and some of these recovery activities are difficult to support in a competitive economic environment. And that's a way to kind of support those activities.
Yeah. And you brought up, kind of the niche materials, just a personal opinion, completely unsolicited. I think that's, where EPR can focus the most is, helping getting, those troublesome materials out of, your bulky collection or giving them a real place to go. Things like your e-waste, things like your mattresses,
Mhm.
the things that don't fit into your standard curbside or commercial service or even your right your roll-off service, but those things that really challenge your operations from both a transportation and processing perspective. Getting a handle around those, probably the quick win that we could experience on the EPR side.
Absolutely. A good example was Paint Care was in California. They've got a pretty robust program to manage paint, and we've been able to really segregate, create programs to separate, collect it separately. We've been able to manage that, donate it to kind of aggregate the paint and donate it to other
Yeah,
countries, and done a lot of work with folks on that. That's a good example
it's a great
of
one.
having that kind of legislation creates market and creates opportunities to go through and do some more effective recovery.
That's a great example. Yeah, thanks. Um, so just looking, forward, you mentioned the value of a technology partner, the value of partnering with your internal, IT and business stakeholders. What's important for Recology? What's important for you in terms of a technology partner? And I know you've got many beyond AMCS in supporting your goals and the way you go forward. What's good for people to look for?
I think it's really important to have partners that understand your business and that listen. I think there's a risk of going out, and if you engage a technology partner that's got a product, that's their push. But if you look for partners that really understand the business, understand the larger goals, I think that's really key. So it's beyond, technology again is wonderful. It can allow you to transform your business. At the same time, it's a set of tools. And I think what's really important in a partner is a partner that understands that you could put in a set of tools if you don't adapt to their use, if you don't effectively take advantage of the benefits that this some new technology will provide, then it's just another, it's just another thing on the shelf or something you have to deal with. But if you find partners that really understand the business, understand, for ecology, understand our goals, our direction, that works better. AMCS, as I mentioned, Jeff, you mentioned your own background. I think that AMCS has been a good partner in that they've got a good client base, understand the business, and really have been, working with us to work through, issues and challenges. There are always those in a large project like the one we're involved in, but also promoting new ideas and bringing things, some of which, we think are great and may adopt, and some don't necessarily fit well. But I think having that partner that is open and really aligned to your business needs is key.
It's interesting. We kind of look for the same thing from AMCS. We value learning with our customers, seeing where things work, where they don't, where we should shift. And so the feedback loop there is, it's the term partner for a reason. And so all the insights and the ability to grow together. It's a great one there. We're about to the Q&A section. Actually, we've got a few popping through. Um, Mallory, did you want to walk us through a few questions? I think we've got about 10 minutes left here in our our scheduled time slot.
Yeah, so I know you guys touched on this a little bit, but we did have a question come through about AI. So how are you currently leveraging AI models? Where do you plan expanding that usage?
Um, we're kind of on the front end of that. We're looking at AI models in a couple different areas. One is focused on, we've been talking about contamination. So as those models evolve um, and get better, we're better able to identify contamination as material is collected, as material comes into our facilities. That's probably a bigger focus. We're also looking at using AI to help us manage, as an example, our contracts and franchises. As I mentioned, we're largely regulated, and using those tools helps us, kind of keep abreast of new things and make sure that our business and our operations are consistent with all of our contractual requirements. For us, I think it's evolving. We're developed some AI, kind of AI strategies and policy, but it's really on the front end right now.
I'll answer that question for AMCS as well. We look at a lot of opportunities, around AI. A lot of what we're focusing on is the enablement of agents and being agentic ready. We know that the opportunities to kind of leverage AI through automation is focused on the repeatable tasks, the things that cost headcount and kind of repeat use to complete. And the completion of those tasks typically stands in the way of making more complex decisions. And so, if we can reduce the time through agents to complete those types of tasks, right? The folks that work at our customers, our clients, are able to spend their time more analyzing the data, making the harder decisions, working on the edges a bit. So, the strong focus from AMCS is enabling an MCP layer that can make our SaaS solutions ready to interact with these agents. And then we're deploying a number of those types of agents focused on areas of automation, repeatable tasks. Even here in this calendar year. So it is really exciting. As John mentioned, it requires having a strategy, having oversight as to what you're enabling through AI, data security, and controlling outcomes is really important as you look at these types of, opportunities. Sending tools off to go do things on your behalf can have negative outcomes. And so, I'm sure the folks in the audience, as well as Recology, that have gone through this, have taken a really hard look at, what's appropriate, how do you connect it? How do you uphold the safety, security, and kind of controllable outcomes as you look to pursue automation? So I have no doubt that we'll be tracking that as a trend this year and coming. So it's a great question there. That was great.
Great. Thank you both. And, from a leadership standpoint, what signals you that your organization is truly ready to scale, not just grow?
I think the key is, as I mentioned, that technology is enables the transformation, but really the transformation comes with your teams, with your business. It means kind of standardized processes, and not only that, kind of a mindset that says, we're absorbing this information, we're using it effectively to make decisions, and that we're really ready to move forward. I think being able to scale, again, the biggest things is having standards and having structure. So that way you can replicate those things that are successful, you obviously need to be adaptable, but that you can replicate those successful things, the things that are working as you move into new markets, as you move into new business lines, et cetera.
Great. And I know, we're early in 2026 right now, but what capabilities do you believe, that waste and recycling organizations should have had in place by the start of this year to remain resilient?
I think we're seeing a lot of advancement and a lot of focus on new technology related to safety. I think as we've spent, the last whatever 45 minutes talking about, I think having visibility into day-to-day activity is gonna be critical because I think that allows you to be efficient, to make sure to understand where your soft spots are and where you need to focus energy. So I think having those core foundational elements in place is key. We were just talking about AI. Technology is going to continue to advance rapidly, and I think having those foundational pieces in place is going to position people to be able to take advantage of the new things as they come along.
A
Great.
great
Thank
point.
you.
Organizational readiness, I think, really hammers that one home, right? Technology only works if the organization's ready to run at it. It's a good leaving comment there.
Yeah, and we just have, one more question for you guys. When looking at platforms, how can you choose a single platform to integrate all data from generating technologies and compel different vendors to synchronize?
That's a excellent question. I think what we're looking at as we talked about earlier is creating a place to aggregate data, and then it allows different technologies to focus and do what they do best. And then what our strategy is then to take all that data and create insights from it. A lot of the technology platform, other technologies provide a lot of that on their own, but ultimately the power then becomes, taking that out and putting it all together. So I think that's really the key. But the advancement in, APIs and the way that systems talk to each other is continuing to improve and advance. And I think that's really going to be the key. It's okay to have different systems and not a single system that does everything. For us, platform was a choice in part because they did have some of the key core activities integrated: customer service, core collection operations, post collections, billing. So because they were integrated, they talk to each other, and that's much more seamless. Whereas you can have it related to a financial system through through a place that you can aggregate data.
Great. Well, thank you so much, for a great discussion today. Just a reminder for all attendees, you will receive priority access to the new AMCS performance report, an industry resource on operational excellence. You can scan the QR code that's been up on the screen here for a little bit, or you can click the link that was shared in the chat. You can also look out for it in our follow-up email with the recording of this webinar within 5 to 7 business days. We hope to see you all again at one of our upcoming conferences this year. You can visit recyclingtodayevents.com for the full lineup of events, including our brand new Organics Recycling Conference, June 9th and 10th in Nashville. Thank you, everybody, once again for attending today's webinar, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, John.
Thank you.